Anthony Flew is a British philosopher, one of the world's leading analytical scientists of our time. He specialized in analytical philosophy and philosophy of religion, and was a professor of philosophy. And here is what he said about himself 6 years before his death. He died in 2010. When I was 22, I had an unpleasant conversation with my parents. It was then that I first told them that I did not believe in God and in life after death. My main argument was that the existence of an omnipotent and all-good creator contradicts the obvious presence of evil and the imperfection of the world. It is interesting that Anthony Flew's father was a minister of the church and taught at a theological college. And Anthony Flew was also called one of the greatest atheists of all time. For over 60 years he published philosophical works, expounding atheistic views that received scientific support among colleagues. However, 6 years before his death, Anthony Flew suddenly announced that he had changed his point of view and believed in the existence of God. In his last works, the scientist explained what made him change his views. When Anthony was at school, his father was sometimes invited to international theological conferences. He went to the conferences not alone, but with his family. These trips always made a great impression on Anthony, not always a pleasant one. Anthony Flew recalled how in the 1930s, traveling with his parents around Bavaria, he came across signs on libraries warning that this institution was prohibited from lending books to Jewish readers. Anthony saw signs with similar content on other institutions. This led me to the idea that if our universe was created by an all-good being, then there can be no place for evil in it, said Anthony Flew. The scientist paid special attention to this inappropriateness in his early works, as well as in public debates, which gathered from 4,000 to 7,000 spectators. Anthony Flew's opponents usually explained the existence of evil by the fact that God, when creating man, endowed him with free will. And evil appeared because people began to use this gift incorrectly. However, no matter what the debaters said to each other, in the end, each of them remained with his own opinion. And only the arguments of one opponent once made a huge impression on Anthony Flew. We are talking about the speech of nuclear physicist Jerry Schroeder. In his speech, Jerry Schroeder tried to prove that the universe could not have originated by chance. Schroeder drew an analogy with a monkey that, diligently typing on the keyboard, accidentally types a Shakespearean sonnet. Schroeder turned to the results of one experiment. A computer was placed in a cage with 6 monkeys. They actively typed on the keyboard for a month. As a result, the monkeys created 50 pages of printed text. However, the scientists did not find a single word in it. It turned out that the probability of obtaining a word in this way, consisting of at least one letter separated by a space, is 1 chance in 27,000. Now let's forget about the monkeys and imagine the universe as a computer chip that can perform 1,000,000 operations per second, producing a random set of letters each time. This is the calculation that Anthony Flew proposed to make. Although Jerry Schroeder's speech impressed Anthony Flew, it was not it that prompted the scientist to radically change his views. First of all, new discoveries in the structure of the DNA molecule influenced the rejection of his previous atheistic worldviews. DNA is an incredibly complex chain of elements that interact with each other in exceptionally well thought out ways. In order for all the elements of this complex mechanism to work so harmoniously as to create life, the participation of some thinking being is necessary. The probability that this interaction occurred by chance is negligible. There is some intelligence behind all this, explained Anthony Flew. Someone's participation can be traced not only in the work of DNA, but also in all natural laws. Anthony Flew believed that everything in the universe was created in such a way as to direct it to the origin and maintenance of life in it. Anthony Flew drew attention to the fact that if we turn to the basic laws of physics, it was calculated that if we slightly change even one known value, for example, the speed of light, the mass of an electron, then there would be no conditions for the emergence of a planet on which life could arise. It turns out that there must be a certain setting in the universe to create such an opportunity. In one of his latest works, in the book, There Is a God, Anthony Flew names other scientists who came to the conclusion that intelligent intervention was necessary to create life in the universe. Among them, for example, is biologist and researcher of the early evolution of life Andrew Knoll. He noted that despite the variety of theories, science cannot yet answer how life arose on our planet. Anthony Flew believed that the emergence of life is not the main question that needs to be answered. It is much more important to know the answer to the question that the scientist was asked at the end of his life. It sounded like this: if we assume that some intelligence created a suitable home for our life, do you think that it continues to care for us? I just think that the mind is the creator of such a complete universe as we know it. It created such a universe, which had to develop along a certain path. But this does not mean that the creator should be interested in it after creation, answered Anthony Flew. Do you agree with the statement of the famous philosopher? Write your opinions in the comments. And see you on our channel.